The night was cold. The road was empty. A broken streetlight flickered, casting a weak yellow glow on the cracked highway. Smoke rose slowly from a destroyed vehicle lying on its side. Pieces of glass and twisted metal were scattered everywhere. In the middle of that wreck, a young woman opened her eyes. She lay on the hard ground, her head heavy, her body weak. For a moment, she did not know who she was or why she was there. Her mind was a dark room with no doors. She tried to remember her name, her home, her family, but nothing came. Her breath was fast. Her heart beat like a drum. She pushed herself up, her hands shaking. Blood ran down her arm, but she felt no pain, only fear. The world around her was silent, almost too silent. The car behind her burned quietly, flames licking the night air. Somewhere in the distance, a dog howled. Another answered, and then another. The sound grew louder, echoing across the empty road. The woman's eyes widened. She turned her head quickly. Shadows moved in the dark, just outside the weak light of the street lamp. She tried to stand, but her legs failed. She crawled, dragging herself across the rough ground. Broken glass cut her knees, but she did not stop. She felt like prey, and something in the dark was hunting her. Her breath turned white in the cold air. The sound of footsteps, or maybe paws, scratched the road behind her. She froze. She could hear them now, low growls, heavy breathing. The glowing eyes of dogs appeared. In the dark, first 2, then 5. Then a whole pack. The woman's heart dropped. She pressed her back against the broken car, trembling. The dogs circled her slowly, their eyes shining like tiny lamps. Their fur was dirty, their ribs showing through the skin. Wild strays, hungry, dangerous. One of them stepped closer, teeth bared. She held her breath, waiting for the attack. Her fingers touched the ground, searching blindly for a weapon, anything. All she found was a sharp piece of glass. She gripped it tightly, ready to fight. The largest dog, with a torn ear, growled deep in its throat. It leaped forward, then stopped. Its nose touched her arm, sniffing the blood. The woman squeezed her eyes shut, waiting for pain. But instead, the dog licked the wound gently. Her eyes flew open in shock. Another dog sniffed her clothes, then sat down beside her. One by one, the others lowered their heads, as if accepting her. She dropped the glass shard, her hand shaking. She did not understand, but somehow, the dogs did not want to hurt her. They wanted to protect her, she whispered, her voice weak and broken. Who am I? The dogs gave no answer, only silent eyes staring at her. Hours passed. The woman tried to walk again. The dogs followed, close behind, like guardians. She moved down the empty highway, step by step, searching for signs of life. But the world felt abandoned. No cars, no people. Only ruined buildings and broken signs. Sometimes she heard voices in her head. Not clear words, just flashes, screams. Fire. A man's voice calling her name. But when she tried to hold on to the memory, it vanished like smoke. The night grew colder. She found shelter under an old bridge. The dogs lay around her, keeping her warm. She closed her eyes, listening to their steady breathing. For the first time since waking, she felt a little safe. But still, her mind was empty. When morning came, light spilled across the cracked road. The woman stood again, her legs stronger. Now she followed the dogs as they guided her toward the city in the distance. Skyscrapers rose like broken teeth against the sky. She entered slowly, moving through silent streets. Something felt wrong. The air smelled strange, metallic. The city was not alive. It was sleeping, or maybe dying. As she turned a corner, she noticed something lying on the ground. A small piece of metal, half buried in dust. She picked it up. Her hands shook as she wiped the dirt away. It was not just metal. It was a badge, and on the badge was a single word, a name. Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered the name out loud, but it felt heavy on her tongue, like a secret not meant to be spoken. Suddenly, a sound broke the silence, a soft, mechanical hum. She looked up. Above her, a small drone floated in the air, its red light blinking. The drone scanned her face with a blue beam. A voice, cold and metallic, spoke from the machine. Subject found. The woman's heart stopped. The dogs barked wildly, circling her again, ready to fight. She clutched the badge to her chest. She did not know who she was, but she knew one thing now. Someone or something was searching for her, and they had just found her. The drone's red light blinked faster, its mechanical voice echoing in the empty street. Subject found. Subject found. The woman froze. She held the badge close to her chest. The stray dogs barked and growled, their teeth flashing. Of the braver dogs leaped at the drone, snapping in mid-air. The machine spun and buzzed, flying higher to escape. But before it could rise too far, the largest dog, the one with the torn ear, grabbed a piece of broken pipe in its jaws and swung it upward. The metal hit the drone's side with a loud crack. Sparks burst out, and the machine crashed against a wall, falling lifeless to the ground. The street became silent again. The woman looked at the pack with wide eyes. These were not normal dogs. They were survivors, just like her. Somehow, they had chosen her. She whispered, her voice trembling, "You saved me." The dogs wagged their tails. The torn-ear leader stepped closer, pressing its nose against her palm. She felt warmth in the touch, something she had not felt since waking up. For a moment, she almost forgot her fear. But the badge in her hand reminded her, the word engraved on it. That single name. It might be hers. Or maybe someone else's. She did not know. But if the drone recognized her, that meant others would come. She had no time to rest. She followed the dogs, deeper into the city. The streets grew narrower, buildings taller, blocking the weak sunlight. Strange posters were pasted on the walls' faces of people, but their eyes scratched out, replaced with red symbols. She could not read the writing, but it gave her chills. The pack led her into an old train station. Its roof half collapsed. Rusty tracks stretched into darkness. The air smelled of oil and dust. The dogs jumped down onto the platform, waiting for her. She climbed after them, her body aching, but she did not complain. Somehow, she felt safe with them. Inside the station, she found an old vending machine tipped over. One of the smaller dogs scratched at it until a packet of stale crackers slid out. The woman picked it up, opening it carefully. The dogs waited, their eyes on her. She broke the crackers into pieces, sharing them with the pack before taking some for herself as she ate. Memories flickered again, fast and blurry. A white room, a table, people in masks, a hand touching hers. Then, nothing. She pressed her head with both hands, whispering, "Why can't I remember?" The torn-eared dog came closer, resting beside her. Its breathing was steady, strong. She placed her hand on its back. For the first time, she felt she was not alone. Hours passed. The woman walked with the pack through the underground tunnels, away from the open streets. The dogs seemed to know the paths well, guiding her like loyal soldiers. Sometimes, she heard noises above heavy boots, strange vehicles moving but underground. She remained unseen. At night, she sat with the dogs near a fire made from broken wood. Their eyes reflected the flames. The city outside felt dead, but here, in the circle of firelight, there was life. She began to whisper stories to them, stories she did not know were real or imagined, about who she might be, about a home she might once have had. The dogs listened quietly, as if they understood every word, but safety never lasted long. One night, as the pack rested, the woman awoke to a sound. Metal scraping, a faint hum. She rose slowly, her heart racing. At the far end of the tunnel, a shape moved. It was not human. A machine crawled from the darkness, long spider-like legs clicking against the concrete floor. Its eyes glowed blue, scanning the air. The dogs growled, forming a wall in front of her. The woman's hands shook. She looked around for a weapon. Broken wood, rusted pipes. She grabbed the longest pipe she could find. The machine advanced, its metal legs lifting and falling with sharp precision. A voice came from it, colder than the drones. Target confirmed. Retrieval in progress. The dogs attacked first. They rushed forward, biting and scratching at the legs of the machine. Sparks flew, but the metal creature did not stop. It swung one leg, knocking two dogs aside. The woman screamed, running toward the fight. She swung the pipe with all her strength. It struck the machine's head, cracking one of its glowing eyes. The creature shrieked, stumbling back. The Tornir leader leaped at its exposed wires, tearing them with its jaws. The machine sparked violently, collapsing in a shower of smoke and sparks. The tunnel grew quiet again. The woman dropped the pipe, her body shaking. She knelt beside the two dogs that had been thrown aside. They were hurt, but alive. She held them close, tears in her eyes. Why? Why are they hunting me? She whispered. No answer came. Only the sound of the dogs breathing beside her. But she knew one thing now. She was not safe. The machines would keep coming. Whoever sent them wanted her alive. But why? As dawn approached, she climbed to the surface again. From a tall building, she looked out at the city. The streets below were too quiet, too controlled. She saw people walking, but there. Faces were blank, their eyes empty, like sleepwalkers. She shivered. Something terrible had happened to this place. The Tornir dog stood beside her, watching too. The woman clenched her fist around the badge. She had no past, no memory, but she had the pack. And with them, she would survive. Suddenly, her eyes caught something across the street. A figure, human, not a machine, not a sleepwalker. Someone alive, watching her from the shadows. Her breath caught in her throat, for the first time since the accident. She realized she was not alone. The morning sun rose weakly, hidden behind heavy gray clouds. The city stood before her like a giant skeleton's tall buildings cracked, its windows shattered, its streets covered in dust. The woman stood still on the rooftop, the badge clenched. In her hand, the pack of stray dogs surrounded her, silent, as if they too sensed something unnatural in the air. Down below, the streets were not empty. People moved, but they did not move like real people. Their faces were pale, their eyes dull, their steps slow and mechanical. They walked in straight lines, never looking at each other, never speaking. It was like watching a colony of sleepwalkers. The woman's chest tightened. She whispered softly, "What happened to them?" One of the smaller dogs whined. The Tornir leader gave a low growl, warning her not to go too close. But curiosity burned inside her. She needed answers. She needed to know if these people could help her, or if they were something worse. She climbed down from the rooftop, her feet landing quietly on broken stone. The dogs followed close, their tails low, their bodies tense. She hid behind a fallen sign and watched the strange crowd pass by. Men, women, even children, yet none of them spoke. Their heads turned at the exact same angle, like machines pretending to be human. The woman took a step forward, but the Tornir dog blocked her path with its body. She frowned, whispering, "I have to try." Against the warning, she walked slowly into the street. The nearest figure was a middle-aged woman in a torn coat. The young survivor raised her hand. "Hello," she said in a small voice. The woman in the coat stopped walking. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Then, slowly, the stranger turned her head. The survivor froze. The woman's eyes were not human. They glowed faintly, a dim red light pulsing with each heartbeat. Her lips parted. But no real words came out, only a whisper, broken and hollow. Subject. Identified, the survivor's blood turned cold. The pack began barking loudly, breaking the eerie quiet. The glowing-eyed figure raised her arm stiffly, pointing directly at the young woman. All at once, the entire crowd of blank people stopped. Walking, their heads turned toward her, hundreds of glowing eyes shining in the dusty light. Her heart pounded. "No," she breathed. The crowd moved all at once. Rushing toward her with inhuman speed, she spun around and ran, her legs pumping hard, the dog sprinting beside her. The sound of countless footsteps thundered behind her, echoing through the empty streets. She ducked into an alley, her lungs burning. But the glowing-eyed crowd followed, climbing over trash and broken fences like predators. The pack fought to protect her. Two of the dogs leaped at the attackers, knocking them down, but more kept coming. The torn-ear leader snapped and bit at every figure that drew near. Buying her seconds to escape, she stumbled through the maze of alleys, turning corners blindly. At last, she pushed through a broken doorway and into the ruins of an old library. She slammed the heavy door shut behind her, her chest heaving. Inside, the library was dark and silent. Dust floated in the air. Broken shelves leaned dangerously, their books rotting with time. The dogs padded in after her, their ears sharp, their growls low. She backed away from the door, pressing her body against a wall. Outside, fists pounded against the wood. The crowd wanted in. The dogs barked furiously. But the door began to crack. She searched the room desperately. Her eyes fell on the far corner of a stairwell leading downward into the basement. She called to the pack, running toward it. Together, they hurried down the stairs. Into the deeper shadows, the basement was colder, filled with dust and broken furniture. She hid behind an overturned desk, pulling the dogs close. The pounding above continued, then suddenly stopped. Silence. Her breath was ragged. The dogs shifted uneasily, their bodies pressed against her. She closed her eyes, whispering, "Please, don't let them find me." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, faintly, she heard something new. Not pounding, not footsteps. A voice. It was coming from deeper in the basement. She froze, her blood running cold. The voice was low, calm, and human. "I know you're there," it said. "Don't be afraid." The dogs growled, forming a protective wall in front of her. The woman clutched the badge tighter. She wanted to run, but something in the voice made her hesitate. It did not sound like the cold machines, nor like the hollow whispers of the blank-eyed crowd. It sounded, Aria. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. A man. His clothes were torn, but not lifeless. His eyes glowed, not red, but warm brown, full of emotion. He held his hands up slowly, showing he carried no weapon. "You've survived longer than I expected," he said softly. "And you're braver than I thought." The woman's throat felt dry. She could not speak. The man took one more step, his eyes on her. "Your name," he whispered, "is Alara." Her heart slammed against her chest. The name struck her like lightning, both familiar and foreign. Images flashed in her head, hand holding hers, a voice calling that same name. A promise whispered in the dark. But then the memory vanished, leaving her shaking. The dogs growled louder, not trusting the man. The Tornir leader stepped forward, ready to attack. The man's voice grew urgent. Listen to me. They will not stop hunting you. The machines, the drones, the sleepers in the streets, all of them want you back. He pointed at her badge. That's why you can't stay here. You need answers, and I can give them to you. The woman stared at him, her lips parting. For the first time since waking, she had heard her name. But could she trust him? Before she could decide, a heavy crash shook the building above. The crowd had broken inside. Dust rained down from the ceiling. The man's eyes went wide. They've found you again, he said. And then everything happened at once. The library shook with violent force. Dust rained from the ceiling as wooden shelves toppled. The sound of breaking glass echoed through the walls. The horde had entered. The woman Lara, as the stranger had called her, pressed her back against the wall, clutching the badge tightly. The dogs barked furiously, their eyes glowing in the dim light. Ready to fight. The man stepped forward, his face calm but tense. He whispered quickly, "Follow me. If you stay here, you die." Alara hesitated. Every part of her screamed not to trust him. But the pounding footsteps above grew louder, closer. The sound of hundreds of lifeless voices filled the air, chanting. In broken rhythm, subject, return. Subject, return. Her heart thudded in her chest. She looked at the Tornir leader. The dog gave a low growl, then nudged her leg forward, as if urging her to move. Alara swallowed her fear and nodded. Show me the way. The man wasted no time. He led them through a narrow passage hidden behind the broken shelves. The corridor smelled of oil and damp stone. They ran through the dark, guided only by his small flashlight. Behind them, the horde smashed through the library, their voices rising like a nightmare choir. At last, they burst out into the night air. They stood in a forgotten courtyard, surrounded by walls covered in vines. The man shut the rusted gate behind them, locking it with a thick chain. For the moment, they were safe. Alara bent forward, gasping for breath. The dog circled her protectively, watching the man with sharp eyes. Finally, she found her voice. Who are you, and how do you know my name? The man's gaze softened. Because I was there, before the accident. I know who you are, Alara. The word hit her again, stirring something deep inside her. She wanted to demand answers, but her throat felt tight. The man slowly extended his hand. I am Kale. I've been searching for you ever since you escaped. You shouldn't even be alive. But, he paused, glancing at the pack of dogs. Maybe fate had other plans. Alara did not take his hand. She narrowed her eyes. Escaped? From what? Kale looked away for a moment, as if weighing the truth. You were part of something. Something terrible. They called it Project Helix. You were not just a victim of an accident. You were created to be more. The words spun in her head. Created? More? She shook her head, stepping back. No, that's impossible. I'm just me. I don't even remember who I am. Kale's eyes filled with sadness. That's because they erased your memory when you ran, but not all of it. Pieces remain. That's why you dream of fire. That's why you hear voices. Her breath caught. She had never told anyone about those dreams, those flashes of memory. How could he know? Before she could respond, the Tornir dog barked sharply. The others followed, restless. The air grew tense. Kale turned, scanning the rooftops. His jaw tightened. They've tracked us here, he whispered, in the distance. Mechanical drones rose above the buildings, their red lights blinking like eyes in the night. The humming grew louder as more appeared, spreading across the sky. Kale grabbed her hand suddenly. We have to move. She pulled away instinctively. Why should I trust you? His voice was fierce, desperate, because if you stay, you'll be dragged back to them, and if that happens, Ilara, you'll never be free again. The words struck her like thunder. Dragged back. Her stomach twisted with dread. Somewhere deep inside, she knew he was telling the truth even if she didn't. Understand it yet? The drones descended, their beams sweeping across the courtyard. One of them spotted her, flashing its cold blue light. A metallic voice echoed. Target locked. Kale pulled a strange device from his Coda small round disc. He pressed a button, and a wave of static burst outward, frying the nearest drone. Sparks rained down as the machine crashed to the ground. Run! Kale shouted. Together they sprinted through the ruins, the dogs at their side. Drones chased from above, beams of light cutting through the dark. Kale guided her through twisting alleys, down broken stairways, across collapsed bridges. The city became a maze of shadows and fire. At last, they slid into an underground shelter hidden beneath an old factory. The heavy door slammed shut behind them, muffling the sound of drones outside. Ilara collapsed against the wall, trembling. Her body shook with exhaustion, her mind burning with questions. She looked at Kale, her voice hoarse. Tell me everything. No more secrets. Kale's eyes met hers. For the first time, his calm mask broke. His voice trembled, not with fear, but with emotion. Ilara, before the accident, you and we were together. I promised I would protect you, but when they came for you, I failed. Her eyes widened. A strange warmth filled her chest, clashing with fear. His words felt both new and familiar, like a forgotten dream. Kale stepped closer, his voice low. I don't expect you to trust me now, but you need to know the truth. You were never just human, and that's why they will never stop hunting you. The shelter shook as an explosion echoed outside. The horde was still searching. Ilara clutched the badge against her heart, her mind spinning. She wanted to deny everything, but deep inside, something told her Kale was not lying. The dogs whined softly, pressing close. Kale placed his hand against the cold wall, listening. They're coming again, he whispered. His eyes met hers, fierce and determined. And this time, we fight. Together. Ilara stared back at him, her fear mixing with something new hope. But in the shadows of the shelter, another memory stirred inside her mind. And with it came the question she feared most. What if Kale wasn't saving her? What if he was leading her back to the very people she had tried to escape? The underground shelter trembled again. Dust fell from the ceiling, the echoes of distant explosions shaking the walls. Ilara sat against the cold stone, her chest heaving. The pack of dogs circled her protectively, their eyes fixed on Kale. He stood in the dim light of a flickering lamp, his face sharp, his jaw set. He looked at her as if carrying a weight he could no longer hold. Ilara, he said quietly, you deserve the truth. She clutched the badge tightly in her hand, her knuckles white. Then tell me, why are they hunting me? Who am I? Kale's voice dropped lower, filled with both guilt and sorrow. You were part of Project Helix. It was not just an experiment. It was a plan to rebuild humanity. To design perfect minds, perfect bodies. Soldiers, scientists, leaders. Created, not born. Ilara's breath caught. She shook her head. That's not possible. But Kale continued. You were their most successful subject. Smarter, stronger, faster, but there was something else they didn't plan for. You had a heart, you felt things, you cared. And that made you dangerous. His words hit her like stones. She pressed a hand to her temple. Images flashed against white walls, needles, cold hands strapping her down. A man's voice saying, she's different. And then fire. Tears welled in her eyes. Why don't I remember any of it? Kale stepped closer, his voice soft now. Because when you escaped, they couldn't risk you telling anyone the truth. They used a fail-safe device to erase your memory. They thought it would destroy you completely. But somehow, you survived the accident. And now? He looked at her with a faint, trembling smile. Now, you're free. Alara shook her head violently. Free. Look at me. I don't even know who I am. I wake up on a road like a ghost. I survive with dogs. And every corner I turn, something tries to drag me back. Her voice cracked. That's not freedom. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Only the low growls of the dogs echoed in the dark. Then Kale whispered, You're right. But you are still alive, and alive means there's hope. Alara's eyes burned as she stared at him. Why do you care so much? Why are you even here? Kale hesitated, then dropped his gaze. Because I failed you once. Our heart pounded. He continued, his voice thick with emotion. Before the accident, before your memory was taken, we weren't just allies. I loved you. I still do. The words stunned her. She wanted to deny them, to push them away, but deep in her chest, something stirred. A warmth she couldn't explain. Kale stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. I tried to protect you the night you escaped. I thought I was fast enough, strong enough. But when the explosion came, I lost you. I thought you were gone forever. And when I found out you had survived, I swore I'd never leave you again. Her throat felt tight, her breath uneven. She wanted to believe him. Part of her did believe him. But her broken memory left her unsure. The Tornir leader barked sharply, breaking the heavy silence. The dogs sensed movement outside. Kale's expression hardened. He picked up a weapon from the corner of the room, a makeshift rifle built from scavenged parts. They're closing in. Lara rose to her feet. Her voice trembled. So, what now? Kale shook his head. No, now. You fight. Because you're not just a survivor, Alara. You're the key to ending them. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? Kale met her gaze, steady and unflinching. You weren't just built to obey. You were built to lead. You carry something inside, something even they couldn't control. That's why they fear you. That's why they need you back. Her stomach twisted. The words echoed in her mind. Something inside you. She pressed her hand to her chest, as if she could feel it, their secret waiting to wake. The shelter shook again, harder this time. A voice boomed from outside, cold and metallic. Return the subject, or be destroyed. Alara's body tensed. She looked at Kale, then at the loyal pack. The Tornir leader growled, ready for battle. Kale's voice was firm. You have a choice. Run again, or stand with me. Alara's breath shook. She wanted to run, but the fire in Kale's words burned inside her. She thought of the blank-eyed people in the streets, the machines that hunted her, the lies that chained her. And she realized she didn't fight now. She would never be free. Her fingers closed around the badge. Her voice was soft but sharp. As steel? Then we fight. Kale's lips curved into the faintest smile. That's the Alara I remember. The door shuddered under the pounding of metal fists. The pack stood ready, their teeth bared, their eyes wild. Kale raised his weapon. Alara picked up the pipe she had carried since the tunnels. The air was thick with fear, but also with something stronger, hope, and just before the door burst open, Alara whispered to herself a promise she didn't fully understand yet. I will never let them control me again. The door exploded inward. Light and smoke filled the shelter. The truth was out. Now came the war. The shelter door exploded inward with a blast of fire and smoke. The force threw Alara back, her ears ringing. The dogs barked wildly, circling her like a shield. Figures moved in the smoke machines with metal frames, their eyes glowing cold. Blue Kale raised his weapon and fired. Sparks flew as bullets slammed into the intruders. One machine collapsed, but two more crawled forward. Their arms splitting into sharp blades. Alara gripped the metal pipe, her breath ragged. The Tornir leader lunged, biting deep into a machine's leg, tearing at the wires. Sparks burst out as the beast staggered. Alara swung her pipe with all her strength, smashing the machine's head. It fell to the ground, lifeless. But another grabbed her arm, its grip like iron. She cried out, the pipe slipping from her hands. The machine's blue eyes scanned her face. A cold voice said, "Subject acquired. Initiating transport." Suddenly, something cracked inside her mind. A flash of white, needles-piercing skin. A woman in a white coat whispering, "We built her too well." "She feels," Alara screamed, her strength surging. With a burst of power she didn't know she had, she twisted her arm free and slammed her fist into the machine's chest. Metal bent under her strike. Sparks exploded and the machine crumpled. She stared at her trembling hands. That strength, it wasn't normal. Kale's voice cut through the chaos. "Alara, you're remembering, aren't you?" Her chest heaved. "I saw them. The scientists, they made me." The words felt like knives in her throat, but there was no time to process. More machines poured in. Kale grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward a back tunnel. "We can't win here. Move." The pack followed, fighting to cover their escape. The tunnel twisted and stretched for miles, their footsteps echoing in the dark. Alara's head pounded with every step. More. Memories flashed, tearing through her like lightning. A sterile lab. White lights, screams. Rows of children in glass chambers, floating in liquid. Her own reflection wires attached to her skin. A man shouting, "She's the prototype." She stumbled, clutching her head. Kale steadied her, his face pale. "Alara, listen to me. They wanted to use you as their weapon, but you chose another path." Tears streamed down her face. "I chose." Yes, his eyes burned with conviction. "The night of the fire, you turned against them. You tried to destroy Project Helix. That's why they wiped your mind. That's why they call you subject." Another flash, this one clear. Flames tearing through the lab. Children screaming. Her hands pressing buttons, releasing them. From their chambers, the sound of alarms, blaring. And Kale's voice shouting her name as the ceiling collapsed. Alara gasped, almost falling. I remember." The tunnel opened into an abandoned subway station. Rusted trains stood silent, their doors hanging open. Kale guided her inside one of the cars. The dogs leaped in after them, panting heavily. For a moment, the world outside was still. Alara pressed her back against the wall, shaking. "I freed them. The children. I tried to stop it." Kale knelt in front of her, his voice low. "You were the only one brave enough to fight back. That's why." He stopped himself, his jaw tight. She stared at him, her voice breaking. "But why don't I remember you?" His eyes softened. "'Cause they took me too. I was one of their soldiers. I broke free because of you. We found each other in the chaos. And then, we lost everything in the fire." Another memory pierced her mind. Kella's hand, holding hers as they ran down a burning corridor. His voice, desperate. "Don't let go." Her heart twisted. She whispered, "I see it. I see you." Kale reached for her hand again, his touch trembling. "Then believe me now. They will never stop hunting you, Alara. But together, we can end this." Before she could answer, a screeching sound echoed through the station. More drones swarmed from the tunnels, their red lights sweeping across the train. The dogs snarled. Ready again? Kale raised his weapon. Ilara picked up her pipe, but her hands no longer felt weak. The flashes in her memory had awakened something inside her, a fire that could not be erased as the drones closed in. She whispered fiercely to herself, "I am not their subject. I am Ilara." She leaped forward, swinging with impossible strength. The pipe crushed a drone's head, sparks bursting like fireworks. The dogs tore into the others, their teeth sinking deep. Kale fired, clearing the way. But in the chaos, another memory surfaced, one darker than the rest. A man in a suit. His face sharp, his voice cold. He leaned close to her strapped body and whispered, "You were never supposed to escape. And when you did, someone close to you betrayed you." Her blood froze. The fight ended in a storm of sparks and broken metal. Silence returned to the station, but Ilara's mind was anything but silent. The word betrayal burned inside her. She looked at Kale. His face was tired, covered in sweat and dust. But his eyes still carried that fire, the fire of someone who swore to protect her. Yet the memory's echo gnawed at her. Someone close betrayed you. Was it him? She didn't speak her fear, but in her heart, doubt grew like a shadow. And she knew, when the final memory returned, it would either save her or destroy everything between them. The silence in the subway station felt heavier than the fight itself. The broken shells of drones sparked on the ground, their red eyes fading into darkness. The dogs stood guard, their bodies tense, their fur bristling. Ilara leaned against the wall, her chest rising and falling with each breath. The memories clawed at her mind, pieces of a puzzle forcing themselves into place. She saw fire, laboratories, children crying. She saw herself pulling Kale through the smoke. She saw his face filled with fear, but also love. And then another image, clearer, sharper, a memory she could not deny. Kale, standing in a white lab, his uniform marked with the Project Helix insignia. His voice cold as he spoke to the scientists. "She trusts me. I'll lead her back." Ilara gasped, her body trembling. She stared at Kale now, his tired face covered in sweat and dust. He reached for her, concern in his eyes. "What is it?" he asked softly. Her voice cracked. I saw you. In the lab. You were one of them." Kale froze. His hand dropped to his side. Silence stretched between them like a blade. "Yes," he said at last. His voice was low, heavy. I was their soldier. Their weapon. I did things I will never forgive myself for." Ilara's grip tightened around the metal pipe. The dogs growled, sensing her anger. "Then everything you told me was a lie." Kale shook his head quickly, stepping closer. "No, not all of it. At first, Sci was sent to control you, to bring you back. But you changed me, Ilara. The night of the fire, when you risked everything to free the others. I couldn't follow orders anymore. I chose you." His eyes burned with desperation. "I betrayed them, not you." Her heart twisted. She wanted to believe him. But the memory's voice still rang in her ears. "Someone close betrayed you." Before she could answer, the walls shook violently. Explosions ripped through the tunnels. From the shadows came the sound of heavy steps, dozens of machines marching in unison. And behind them, the blank-eyed citizens, their voices whispering in chorus. "Subject. Return. Subject. Return." Kale grabbed her arm. "There's no time. Believe me or not, we fight now or neither of us survives." The pack barked fiercely, ready to protect. Ilara's pulse roared in her ears. Tia clashed with rage. Rage clashed with something deeper, love. A love she didn't fully remember, but felt in her bones. She raised her pipe. Then we fight. The tunnel burst open as machines poured in, their blades flashing in the dim light. Kale fired his weapon. The dogs lunged forward, and Alara moved with a strength she had never known. Her pipe crashed against steel, bending it like clay. Her fists struck with the force of thunder, breaking metal apart. But no matter how many fell, more came. The swarm was endless. In the chaos, Kale shouted, "Ilara, you have to use it." Her eyes darted to him. "Use what?" "The power inside you. The reason they built you. The reason they fear you." Another flash of memory struck her. She was strapped to a table, wires connected to her chest. A scientist. Whispered, "She's not a soldier. She's the core. If she awakens, she can destroy us all." Her body shook. She felt heat building inside her, spreading through her veins like fire. Her hands glowed faintly, light pulsing under her skin. Kale's voice reached her through the storm. "It's not a weapon of destruction, Alara. It's love. It's what they couldn't program out of you. That's why you freed the children. That's why you fight. That's why his voice cracked. That's why I love you." Her heart pounded. The light inside her grew brighter, warmer. She screamed, lifting her hands. A wave of energy exploded outward, not cold, not violent, but alive. The machines staggered, their eyes flickering, then going dark. The blank-eyed citizens froze, their faces softening as the red glow in their eyes faded. The tunnel was silent. The swarm was gone. Ilara collapsed to her knees, trembling, the light fading from her hands. The dogs pressed against her, whining softly. Kale rushed to her side, kneeling. His eyes glistened. "You did it. You broke their control." She looked at him, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know if I can trust you, Kale, but I know one thing: I wouldn't have done this alone." He lowered his head. "Spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of your trust. If you let me." For a moment, silence filled the station again. But it was a different silence, one filled with possibility, not fear. Ilara reached out, her hand trembling, and touched his. The warmth between them was real. Stronger than the shadows of doubt. The Tornir leader barked once, sharp and clear, as if approving the choice. The pack wagged their tails, the firelight of survival shining in their eyes. Ilara rose slowly, the badge still clutched in her hand. She looked down the tunnel where the city waited beyond. Her voice was soft, but unshakable. "I lost my past, but I've found my strength, and with it, I'll build a future." Kale stood beside her, his weapon hanging at his side. The dogs gathered around them like guardians above. The city groaned under its broken sky. The war was not over. But Alara no longer felt like prey. She was ready, and for the first time since the accident, she did not feel lost. She felt alive.